Webcast. We would appreciate any responses as they help guide the services we provide. If at any time you have questions during this webcast, please write in the messaging section, and if time allows, we'll do our best to address them at the end. Again, my name is Victoria, and I am the Associate Marketing Manager for Microsoft, located out of the Seattle office. Now, I will hand over the webcast to our Solutions Architect, who can speak a bit more of his background and about Aaron, our wonderful marketing analyst, to set up this webcast series.
Thanks, Victoria. Hey guys, this is Ray Latham. As Victoria said, I'm the Solutions Architect for Vibrant Fusion. I'll be going through the, the technical aspect today of the reporting stuff. Erin Quinn's also on the call. You may have probably gotten some emails and whatnot from her. She's in charge of our, our social presence, if you will. And also sends out our monthly Vibrant Fusion newsletter, as well as some other things. So you probably got some emails and all from Erin. She's on with us as well. One quick thing, just kind of housekeeping. We've got a lot of people on the webcast. We've got a little bit of background noise. So can we, I think somebody read my mind. Could you please mute your phone if you're not speaking? I think that just makes it easier for everybody to be able to hear. Thank you very much. All right, so a little bit, tell you what, just give me 2 seconds here. A little bit on, a little bit about Vibrant Fusion. And I assure you, I'm not the sales guy. I am the technical guy, so I'm not going to bore you with some sales pitch, I promise. But a little bit about us, who we are at Vibrant Fusion. We're a Microsoft Gold certified project and portfolio management partner, and we're Silver certified in content and collaboration for SharePoint. A little bit of our highlights about us here on the left side. We're on the Project Advisory Council at Microsoft, which we're fortunate to be on, and just one of 25 people worldwide that are on that. We're also on the Microsoft VTSP program for Project and Project Server. We've got a lot of over 10 years experience deploying Project Server and SharePoint solutions. A lot of our people that work with us at Vibrant Fusion are former Microsoft employees, which, you know, as you probably know in life, it always helps to know somebody. So, you know, being able to have those relationships with Microsoft really does help out. We've got a solution we call Quick PMO, which we're not going to really get into today, but it's basically an offering that we have that's sort of an off-the-shelf offering for Project Server and Project Online to sort of get you up and running quickly. And we've got offices across the United States. On the right side, I won't read through all that, but that's just some of our offerings that we have, again, some of the products and solutions that we have. I would encourage you, if you have any needs in the Project Server, Project Online arena, to work with your local sales rep, and we can schedule a demo or whatnot with you and sort of show you what we offer with Quick PMO. But again, that's not really why we're here today. But just a little bit about us, just so you're aware. All right. Also, Vibrant Fusion is now a Microsoft company. We were acquired by Microsoft a few months back, which is great and very exciting because Microsoft is actually a joint venture with Microsoft, which sort of you know, furthers our relationship with Microsoft, like I was mentioning before. So this is going to allow us to boost our response time and delivery, and as well as giving us more services to offer, such as mentioned there at the bottom. Staffing, BI, I know Microsoft is on the red carpet program with Microsoft with that. They're one of the first people to work with Power BI, which is what we're going to go over today. So anyway, that's a little bit about us and what we do here at Vibrant Fusion and Microsoft. So now into the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the presentation and what we came for. So think about reporting. I've got a developer background. I've been working in IT for longer than I tend to share with you. But when it comes to reports with Project Server or Project Online, we usually get two responses when people talk about reports. Either we ask people what kind of just a reminder to those that just joined, if you're not speaking, would you mind muting your phone? Just makes it a little bit easier on everybody else to hear. Thank you. But anyway, so in talking about reports and whatnot with people, we usually get a couple of responses. We either sit down and we say, well, you know, what kind of reports do you have, or what kind of reports do you want? And we sort of get this deer in the headlights look of, well, and the response is oftentimes, well, what kind of reports can we have? So a lot of people really don't think about reporting. And then there's a lot of clients as well which will stand up Project Server or Project Online, and they've used the thing for a long time. You know, they've used the tool for quite a while, and yet they don't do any reporting whatsoever. So, you know, Project Online is great for managing your schedules, for managing your resources, things like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you're collecting all of this data and you're not doing any reporting on it, then why are you collecting the data, right? So anyway, so some ideas to sort of get you thinking about what to report on and how we can do it, and then we're going to get into a demo of Power BI to talk about sort of where the rubber meets the road, so to speak, and after you've got it all planned, how do you actually make it all work? So first thing, of course, I'm assuming everyone on the call is familiar with Project Online or Project Server. So, you know, within Project Server or Project Online, you have to create what's called your Enterprise Custom Fields, or ECFs. A lot of times we call those project attributes with clients because they hear the word custom field and it becomes, you know, oh, it's custom, developer time, it's going to be really complicated. It's not really, you know, it is, yet that's what they are, that's what they're called, but essentially it's just your project attributes. Project Server, Project Online, I always mention, is infinitely configurable. So we've done clients that are, I had a client that builds bridges for a living, one that had a, you know, huge crane business, pulpwood manufacturers, hospitals, retail solutions, Coke, Auto Trader, whatever. So everybody's different, but at the same time, Project Online is sort of that Swiss Army knife that you can make work for everybody. It's just a matter of setting up your attributes. So, you know, the pulpwood people's attributes are going to be totally different than Coca-Cola's attributes, because clearly they're in two different arenas, right? So create those custom fields that are, you know, meaningful to your business. And again, the ones that you're going to want to report on, not just, you know, setting up, gathering data for the purpose of gathering data. And then secondly, rely on lookup tables wherever possible. We had a client recently that, as an example, they had a project attribute called Project Sponsor, and it was free-form text. It wasn't a drop-down. So you can imagine the reporting nightmare of, you know, some people may put the guy's last name, last name, comma, first name, his nickname, you know, maiden name, whatever. So if it's free-form text, it's really going to be difficult to make the report easy to, you know, if say that was a drop-down for the report, you know, choose the project sponsor you want to see. Well, there's a list of 40 names, but there's really only 10 people because everybody calls them 4 different things. So use lookup tables wherever possible. That just makes it easier to make sure your data is concise. Be conscious of value sizes. What I mean by that, we have, again, speaking from just kind of some recent experiences here, a client that had their custom field names were, or excuse me, their EPT, the project type names, were extremely long. I mean, by extremely long, I mean like 30 or 40 characters. You know, retail solutions dash North America dash new implementation dash 2016, that kind of thing. Well, when you have something that's so wordy, if you can imagine if we're doing a chart or a graph or even in a table, it's so big, it's going to wrap and it's going to cut off and it's going to be hard to read and things like that. So if it's something we're going to be reporting on, I always try to either abbreviate it or, you know, don't get real extremely wordy with it, just so that you can kind of, you know, make the reports a little bit easier to see. And then with Project Online, I always mention to use single selection whenever possible. You do have the ability, of course, within Project Server or Project Online to create custom fields and have those either single select or multi-select. A good example that we get a lot is the resources role. Well, Ray is a report writer and Ray's also a solutions architect, so he has 2 roles. Well, not really. You know, on paper, Ray is a solutions architect. So if on the side I'm a PM or I'm a, you know, whatever, it's easier, I guess what I'm getting at, is to have everybody be one role. It makes it, or one, whatever the attribute is. Makes it a whole lot easier from a reporting standpoint if things are single selection, not multiple value. Just makes it a whole lot simpler from the reporting standpoint. So that's kind of in the planning phases, if you will, of setting up what we want to report on. And then PowerPoint, come on, here we go. So then what data is best? So, you know, again, this comes back to what I mentioned in the beginning. What reports do you have today? And, you know, we kind of start the conversations usually with that. Not that we want to duplicate the reports that somebody may have today, but at least that we can see from those reports what metrics they're wanting to report on. You know, is it market category? Is it location? Is it, you know, whatever it could possibly be. So, you know, again, what metrics are important to your organization? And again, to my earlier example, you know, Coca-Cola's metrics are going to be a whole lot different than somebody that runs a 24/7 pulpwood manufacturing facility. So, again, what's important to you? Are there existing reports that somebody's doing today? There probably are. There's always, everybody has that, every organization has that person that's a wizard in Excel that, you know, somehow manipulates data and comes out with these reports. They spend, you know, 30 hours of a 40-hour week generating this report just so they can deliver it on Friday. So somebody there has some type of reports that they're using today. What we typically try to do is get that manual generation and, you know, put it aside so that we can generate reports through the system automatically so somebody's not spending 30 hours a week massaging Excel to come up with this report. And then obviously the data should be meaningful and relevant, excuse me. So again, just comes back to reporting on what's important to either the organization or, of course, the recipient of the report. You know, without knowing an organization, I could throw together a handful of 8 or 10 reports and say, here's some report samples for you. And they look over them and say, well, you know, this is great, but, you know, we don't do, you know, location doesn't matter to us, so we don't need any reports that show by location. So again, what's meaningful and relevant to your organization? Which route to take? There are a handful of options, depending on whether you are on Project Server, which of course is on-premise, or on Project Online. There are a handful of options for each, depending on which route you want to take. If you're on-premise with Project Server, so of course your SQL database and whatnot is there. You can do SSRS, which is, you know, SQL Server Reporting Services. And again, with the pros and cons of each, SSRS is kind of up there with Power BI in the fact that you get the most bang for your buck, but SSRS is also, I would say, the most complicated way to do it. It requires somebody to be able to write queries. So, you know, someone to know SQL, select this from that table and joins and all that stuff. You got to write your queries. So again, you kind of get out of it what you put into it. It takes more to do it, but it's very powerful. You can do anything you can imagine. I always say you can always do with SSRS just because it's great. Power BI is up there with it as well as far as functionality, what you can do. You can actually do some things with Power BI that you can't do with SSRS, and we'll go through that in just a minute. But the setup and the, you know, getting the report on the paper, so to speak, is a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster with Power BI, and I'll show you that in just a minute. It doesn't require somebody to have a real strong technical background. In fact, if you've used pivot charts or pivot tables in Excel, you're familiar with kind of how that works. Power BI essentially is the same thing. The functionality is very similar, very straightforward. And then also with, and oh, by the way, in Power BI you can do with whether you're on-premise or whether you're on Project Online, either way. And then also with JavaScript, with Project Online, and I'll show you one of those briefly. That's a lot of the reports that we have as part of Quick PMO. They're you know, graphs, pie charts, you know, dashboards, things like that. All those are done through JavaScript, which there again, sort of like SSRS. You can do a lot with it, but at the same time, that's probably more heavily developer needed than SSRS. So giving the options, really, you know, Power BI is the most bang for your buck, and that's kind of what we're going to focus on today. Now, I didn't list on here, you can do Excel services either way with on-premise or with the, you know, or with Project Online, so Project Online or Project Server. But didn't really talk about that much because honestly, with with Power BI coming up as strong as it is now, I don't find a whole lot of people that still do a whole lot with Excel. But again, you could use Excel as well to do the reports as well, because the reports, the data that's in Project Online is only accessible via what's called OData. SSRS doesn't speak OData, so really the only options you've got are Excel, Power BI, or something that will speak OData to pull the data out of the cloud. And then finally, the layout, what goes where. And I'll admit, I've done reports for a while, and honestly, the step 4 is the one that gets me most wrapped around the axle. Getting the data on the piece of paper is a piece of cake. But, sizes and fonts and colors and, all that stuff, a lot of time, at least in my experience, it's what takes a lot of the time. Usually when working on a report for somebody, how's this going to be used? Are you going to print it? Are you going to view it online? What? Because if they're just going to view it online, you don't really have to worry about the printing aspect of it. If it's going to be printed, obviously we've got to know what size paper you're going to print it on. I actually had a lady the other day that came in with, I don't know how big it was. I know it was printed on a plotter. Probably at least 4 feet wide, 3 feet tall, and came into a meeting and taped it on the wall and literally goes, "This is the report that I used today." And when she left, she took it back with her to tape it back up on the wall of her office. So, that's well and good. It's a really large report. There's a lot of stuff on there. So maybe it needs to be that big. But anyway, so that's something to keep in consideration. How's it going to print? Because, if you get the thing set up and it looks great, it looks really pretty, and then as soon as your CEO goes to print it, half of it chops off the page, then, you kind of got a little egg on your face there. So keep that in mind. How's it going to print? What size? Things like that. Graphs are great, in my opinion, to an extent. Most executives don't want to have to take 10 clicks to run a report. They don't want to dig through, the 3-foot by 4-foot plotter-sized report to find the row that's the project that they're interested in. They like it clean. They like it simple. They like it, just very concise. So I'd use graphs wherever I can, but again, keep it clean. If you've got 16 pie charts on a report, then you've kind of cluttered it, in my opinion. So, again, so report on what's important, but at the same time, try to keep it clean and not overwhelming so that somebody sees it and goes, wow, that's a lot of pie charts. Let me look at all 16 of these and see which one that is relevant. And then finally, use the company colors and fonts. I know that sort of goes without saying, but of course we do a lot of reports for clients, and so usually we'll either take their logo, pull the colors out of it with Photoshop or something, or most organizations have like their primary color palette, secondary color palette that somebody in marketing has. We usually get that and use those colors for the reports. That way, the report looks like the other company's, documents or whatnot that they release. And again, that kind of goes without saying. There's also a lot of times if you don't have company colors, and this is probably where you can see where I kind of get wrapped around the axle on this, you can search, you can Google for like complementary colors. So if their primary company color is red or whatever it is, there's websites that you can give it the code of one color and it will give you like complementary colors. So, so me being a guy, oh, your color's red. What am I going to put with red? I don't know what matches red. I know khaki, right? Khaki matches everything. So, but you can go through something like that and get some ideas of some other colors to lay in with it. All right. So, that being said, now where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. So, Power BI. Power BI has a desktop tool, which I will show you here. So Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is free to download, costs you absolutely nothing. So if you have Project Online, you can pull the data into here and sort of play with some reports, developing them, piece of cake. Where you get into licensing costs is where you start publishing the reports. So I can create it here. I can't print it. I can't email it. I can't anything. It's basically, you write it here, and then you have to load it to the server somewhere, and that's where your audience basically sees the report. I'll show you how easy this is. What, it's 12:24, and I realize I'm kind of talking through this, but I'll show you how quickly we can make a report. So if we go here, this is the demo environment for PWA that we're going to be using for Project Online. So I'm going to copy that. That's the URL to PWA. So got that. So go over here to Power BI, and I've got this silly thing showing at startup, but that's fine. So I'm going to get the data. Obviously, that's a nice first step, right? So OData, I just happen to know, is under Other. So under Other, there's OData data feed. That's the one we use to get data out of Project Online. Now, as you can see, Facebook, MailChimp, bunch of things, I don't even know what they are, to be quite frank with you. As you can see, from Power BI, you can get data from practically anywhere. But, again, for today's thing, we're getting it out of OData. But just as a side note, depending on what you've got, there's probably a way to get the data out of it and pull it into Power BI. It's really powerful in that regard. So I'll select OData data feed and click Connect. So it's going to ask me, well, where is your OData data feed? So there's the URL that I just copied from PWA, and then we're going to stick at the end of that _API/project data. And it's always the same thing every time. So you don't have to go through and you can copy and paste it and save it somewhere off if you want. You don't have to save it off somewhere if you need to, but it's always the URL of Project Online or PWA, whatever you want to refer to it as, and then _API/project data. And we click OK. All right, so now that comes up, and here's a list on the left of all the feeds that we have. So what's a feed? Well, if you know SQL or are familiar with sort of a database aspect, the feeds essentially are the same thing as the tables, the database table. So for example, scroll down to the easy ones here. We've got projects, we've got resources, we've got tasks, we've got assignments, of course all those join together, issues, risks, all the basic things that you have. If you're familiar with Project Server on premise, it's essentially the same as the tables. It's just they're called feeds rather than being a table. So we're going to click projects just for ease here. And it's going to spin over on the right for just a second if I wanted to wait. And it's going to tell me here's basically what the data looks like that's in project. So you've got the project ID, the project type, and a whole slew of columns that are in the project feed. So this is the one we want. So I'm going to click load. So it's going to spin for just a second, pull the data down. And then as I was saying before, if you're familiar with Excel and how pivot tables and pivot charts work, where you have a list of fields, right, you basically got the same thing here. So over on the right, here's all the fields that are in the project's feed. So if you scroll down through here, project name, project work, all those fields are all down through here. Up at the top left under visualizations is where I choose what I want this report to look like. So here's a table, for example. I can have a table in my report. I can have a pie chart in my report. I can have a bar chart. I can have a map, which is actually pretty cool, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's say we want a pie chart for now. So I'm going to double-click pie chart. It's going to stick a pie chart over there on the piece of paper. Let's say I want to see the percentage of projects by program or portfolio. So I'm going to pull the portfolio. Here's portfolio. They're all alphabetical, so it makes it easy to find. So drag portfolio into details, and then under values, we could use project name or the project ID, either way. So we'll say project name or project ID because I saw it first. So let me expand this to make it a little bit bigger. So here's, and I know you can read the fonts, they're a little bit small, but these are blank, these are 20/20 vision, you can see as I hover over them. So now we've basically made a pie chart that shows us the percentage of projects by the program, or portfolio, excuse me, by portfolio. And we've literally done nothing except for pasting a URL and drag two fields over. So this is good. I like our pie chart. So I'm going to keep it up here at the top. And let's say I want a table too. Oh, tell you what, before I put a table on here, if I create this as a pie chart and then I'm thinking, you know what, I don't really like the pie chart. Maybe I want to make it a bar chart. I can just click the bar chart and it's going to change it. I can click any of the charts that are up here and change the type of chart, whichever one I think looks best. So I'll click pie chart. Now I'll show you too the little paintbrush here. It says format. This is where we can see different things we want to add to the report. So if I want to turn the legend on, I can click that. And I apologize, I know this is smushed, but I've got these fields kind of pulled over so we can see this gray section better. We can turn the legend on or off, and that shows us up there at the top what they are. Detail labels on or off, that's our little call outs here on the pie chart. Background, we can turn the background on. If I want to give it a background of a light gray or something, we can do that as well. Title, the title's on. It says up there at the top, count of projects by portfolio. Here, too, that's a little bit better. Count of project ID by portfolio. Well, I want to change it to something else. Raise Webcast. So now it's going to show that up at the top of the report for my title. So I can you can get the idea. So all this through here, the title, the background, the color, border on or off. Say I want a border on it, it's going to put a little square around my around the report. So if we go back to the report here, so now we kind of fixed it up a little bit, put a border on it, made it gray, all that good stuff. So now let's say we want to put a table at the bottom. So here's my table, a double-click table. And now we got a table. So I'll drag this around to wherever you want it. And you'll notice too, Power BI is very widget-like, I guess, for lack of a better word. In other words, you know, I've got this pie chart, and it's one thing, and I've got this table at the bottom, and that's another thing. And I can go through and add a map, and that means something else. So you kind of have these little pieces, kind of Lego blocks, if you will, that you sort of plug together to make your report. So at the bottom, let's say I want to put some detail about these projects. So at the bottom, I'm going to put the project name. And again, you see all I did was drag it up under values. Project name, maybe I want to know the project start date. That's something good to know. Drag it up there. The project, I'll tell you what. When you put a date field in there, by default it blows it out like this to quarter, month, day, and year. You can turn that off, and there we go. Well, you can turn that off so that it doesn't, there we go. If you choose project start date rather than date hierarchy, you don't get that whole breakdown thing. So anyway, I just wanted to show the date. I don't care about all the other quarter, month, and all that good stuff. All right, so we got the start date. Naturally, if we've got start, we want to know the finish. Drag it up to the top, and actually, same thing for that one. Project finish date, and I'm going to drag that one up so they're in the right order. And let's see, what else? Maybe we want to know the health of the project. Status health. I'll take that there. So some of those are green. All right, so that's good enough for now. You get the idea. Now, what's cool about this, as if this wasn't cool enough, we've got our pie chart at the top, we've got our table at the bottom, and we stuck a couple fields in there. I can go through, and let's say I pick on 2020. When I select, and again, I apologize, can I make this any? I can't really make it any bigger than it is. I hope you can see it okay, but if I click 2020 at the top, you see my list of projects at the bottom have changed. If I click e-commerce, the list of projects at the bottom has changed. We didn't do anything to tie it together. I didn't do some, you know, fancy development work or anything like that to basically say, hey, when I change this chart, also change this one down here at the bottom. All your reports or your little widgets, the little Lego blocks that you put into one report, they're all automatically tied together. So if I want to look at the merge, and you see how the colors change too, when I click on them, it sort of highlights. Right now it's showing all projects. Again, if I want to look, this is merger and acquisitions. If I select that, there's all my merger and acquisition projects down at the bottom. And here's all the details about those projects. So it's really cool. And I started at 12:24, so it's been 9 minutes, and I've got a pie chart, and I've got a table, and I've been talking a lot. So I think that's fairly decent. I know SSRS, or especially JavaScript, there's no way you can do that in 9 minutes. So now that let's just say this is going to be our report. You've got a couple of options. We go over here to the little drop down at the top left, and I select Publish. And then I select Publish to Power BI. So you're thinking, where does this go? Where, now that I'm publishing it, it's just going to that, you know, I've got to save it first. where's this thing going to go? Well, I'll tell you where it's going to go. It's going to go where you got the data from. So we pulled the data, remember, from Project Online. I gave it the location of the URL for that, pulled the data down from there. So when I publish it, that's exactly where it's going to go back. So it kind of makes sense if you think about it. So you don't have to tell it where to go. It just automatically knows where to go. So I can close it. So now, let's say I'm done with my simple report here. I can go over now to Project Online. So here's PWA. This is the home page of PWA with Quick PMO installed. And not to be salesy, but we talked a minute ago about the JavaScript reports. This is an example of a JavaScript report. So you see we've got 2 pie charts, 2 bar charts, similar in that you can click on them and things like that, but that's just an example of what you can do with JavaScript, and that's what we provide as part of Quick PMO. So we've got a tile here for Power BI. If I click on Power BI, it's going to spin here for just a second, and it's going to come up with all of our reports. So over here on the left, under Reports, there's the report we just did. So Ray, and here's today's date, Demo 2. So there's our chart, and it's going to work exactly like it did when we had it in our desktop when we made the thing. But what's neat about this is, remember I told you guys to use the old Lego block analogy there for a while. Let's say, you know what, I like this chart up at the top. So I can select this. Well, one thing I can do is zoom it out, which makes it easier for all 80 of you guys to read what's going on, right? So if we can click on any of these, we click that little button, zooms it out, makes it bigger, easier to read them. But you see this push pin. If I go to the reports, I can pin it. So basically, I can make my own dashboard from any of the reports that my organization has. So, you know, let's say Sally made a pie chart of the percentage by PMs, and then Bobby made a pie chart of the percent of projects by portfolio. Well, I don't want to go and create a new report. I just want to create a new dashboard, but I'm just going to kind of, you know, pillage and steal, if you will, and take their reports and make them into my own dashboard. So all I have to do is click pin. I can pin it on an existing one, or I can create a new one, give it a name, and it's going to stick the report on the dashboard for me, and then I'll have a brand new dashboard under the top, which we'll show in just a second under dashboards. So just to give you an idea, here's the one I did this morning, project ID by program, and then the project work by location. So you can see, well, let me, in fact, zoom it out. So we have a project level custom field called location, New York, Moscow, etc. So we can see based on this where our projects are. And again, if we look, let's say Paris, or let's pick one that's bigger. If I pick Moscow. Moscow, you see how the pie chart changed here? See how we have this little smidgen of yellow in here? So that's the ones that are Moscow. So let me find one. If I click on the pie chart as well, so if I click on, let's say, mobility. See how when I clicked on mobility, we've got the darker shades here. Darker shades under these. So I've got 6,400 hours of project work in Cairo, Egypt. 1,894 of those hours are the CRM program, which is what I select over here on the side. So again, they're all tied together. We didn't do anything to make them tied together. It just magically works like it's supposed to. You can click on either one. Oh, this is a good example. So San Pablo, apparently all of those projects are mobility. And so again, we can see there's 6 total. 2 of those are in San Pablo. So 6 is the big piece of pie. 2 is the little section that we've got highlighted there. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. That's the one I did earlier today. We did another one I did recently, just sort of a demo. Similar thing, here's the projects by portfolio. Portfolio is listed across the top. We see the summary for each, and so I can pop that out. So of the ones I've selected, the 2020 Vision portfolio, here's the total cost, project work, and of course it sums it up for you if you want it to sum it. Again, under that paintbrush that we looked at, another option there just to have it summed. And we can even see the milestones. So if I want to look for my 2020 project, here's all of the projects, here's the task, here's the start date. So here's all the, basically the milestones. So in the report that we did, you know, all I did was bring in the project feed, just to, you know, start off sort of with something simple. You can also, in that, you know, we had that pop-up of the selection of which feeds we wanted. I can choose project, task, assignment, resource. If you're familiar with the way the data is structured, you know that there's joins obviously between those. So there's a field that joins between project and task, and one between task and assignment, and one between assignment and resource. Well, with SQL or SSRS, you'd have to know that, and you'd have to do those joins in your query. Power BI does those for you. So it will automatically, if you go up here at the top, it says Manage Relationships. That's going to show us, and I don't have any because I just have one feed. But if we had two, it would show us the two different feeds that we have and how those two are joined together. So that's how I can do things like, you know, go like this, the milestones. Show me the name of the project, the name of the task, and the start date of the task. Oh, and by the way, filter them where the task is a milestone. So you've got to pull a couple of different ones together, but it's literally just a matter of checking the other box, pulling them in, and then, again, choosing the task name, the start date from tasks, and then choosing the project name under the projects feed, okay? And then as I was saying before, on the dashboard, once we have the reports, now I basically have a dashboard. So you're thinking, what's the difference between a dashboard and a report? They look a lot alike, right? Well, they really do look a lot alike. The only difference is really your dashboard is sort of your, well, I'm going to come back to that one. Your dashboard is sort of your final product, so to speak. And, of course, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, all those things. But obviously you can't pin from here because you've already basically made your dashboard by pinning reports. So at this point, this is sort of your, you know, your masterpiece, if you will, of all your reports that you've made together. And, of course, the same thing as we saw before. They'll function the same. Clicking on anything is going to change the others and all that. Now, I'll show you this as well. Microsoft recently released, for the low price of free, a Power BI report pack for Project Online. So if we look up here, if I click Microsoft Project, this is that. And you'll have to pardon me, I'm going to have to scroll a little bit because it's a little bit wide. But you can see the top left, and depending on the number of projects you have, I would add some type of a filter to this, just because if you've got 1,000 projects, of course, this is going to get a little bit ugly. But if we look at this one, for example, this acquisition target analysis, let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So this one on the far left, acquisition target analysis. We see the baseline work is the kind of green color there, 2608. The black is the work from the schedule, also 2608. And then the pink here is our remaining. So we can see for each of these projects where we are as far as work, baseline, and actual work. And if we go back, we have some other things that are pretty handy. If we click on this, for example, project compliance. So this is kind of the bad boy list, if you will. So here's the projects that are out of compliance. Rob has 4 projects apparently. If I click on that, 4 active projects with incomplete work in the past. So this can kind of be, and of course this is just the generic, and this comes from our demo environment, of course, so it's all kind of dummy data anyway. But you can get an idea of where you are as far as what PMs haven't updated their project in a while, last time their project was modified, as well as who has incomplete work in the past. Now we see across the bottom, we've got a couple more we can go into. Issues. Here's all the issues across all of our projects, and again by priority. And as you can imagine, let's say high. High's red. If I click on high, just like we saw with the other ones, once I click on high, it's going to change all the other ones. So I only want to be concerned with the high projects, or excuse me, with the high issues. And so you can see as we look through here, pop that out to make it bigger. You can see as we look through here, here's the project, here's the issues for that project, who it's assigned to, priority active, and here's a link to it, by the way. So if you want to open this, I can click that, and it will take me to the issue there within PWA. So as you can see, there's a lot here, and again, it's absolutely free. Microsoft released it free of charge. So we looked at the portfolio status is what we looked at a little bit before, where we saw all the projects and their work. You can also see where we are as far as kind of a burn down for the work as well. And of course, if we click one of those projects, like that one, for example, when we click one of the projects, of course, naturally it's going to change the other. We can see by time where we are. So I want to know, as of February, I had 1,200 hours of actual work, and I had 40 hours of planned left. So you can see as our work kind of burns down as we're progressing through the project. And then we looked at the compliance. We looked at risks. We didn't look at risks, excuse me. Risks is basically the same thing as the issues in that you've got the charts here as well by probability or by impact. And again, click on any of those, you can zoom into it. So once again, that's the Microsoft, if you can Google it, the Power BI reporting pack for Project Online, and you can install that absolutely free of charge, and it comes with everything that we showed you. Now, what's even cooler, if you can imagine there's actually more. See this right here, this 6 active risks? This is what's called a card tile. So again, if you see as I hover over it, there's a square outside it, just like there's a square around this. Remember our whole Lego comparison there a minute ago? So we've got 6 active risks for this project. One of my favorite things about Power BI is that there is a mobile interface to it, which I'm going to show you in just a second. You can also set up alerts for certain things within your reports. So let's say Ray is the project, or I'm a portfolio manager. We have 6 active risks across all of our projects. Well, we're working on those. We're trying to get them down. But you know what? Everybody, whether you like it or not, everybody's stuck on their phone all the time. Somebody's always looking at their phone. So I want an alert on my phone. If I get 10 risks, I want something to pop up on my iPhone and say, hey, Ray, you've got 10 risks now. So I can view this report in my mobile app, and I can set an alert on that card tile to say, hey, again, 10, ping me. So let me show you real quick if we go back over to, well, actually here. I print screened this morning from my iPhone. So this is the portfolio dashboard, which we saw. See what? Let me just jump back and forth real quick. And I hate going back and forth, so I apologize for that, but at least you can kind of get an idea. This guy, portfolio dashboard. So here's the portfolio dashboard report. Pie chart at the top, project summary in the middle, milestones at the bottom. What we saw before, right? Well, this is that exact same report, but it's on my iPhone. So it's not that it brings it up on the phone and just zooms it in so small that you can't read and you've got to, pull left and right and up and down to be able to read the report. It actually formats it for the phone, and I literally print screen this off my phone, so it's not zoomed in or anything, but I can see all 3 of those at one time. And just like we saw before, if I click on 2020, it's going to change the other 2. So I can bring up any of these reports on my phone through the Power BI mobile app, which again is free. There's no charge for it. You just bring it up. You log in to, for example, these are published to our demo Project Online tenant. So I'll basically enter my credentials to log in there because, again, that's where I'm getting the data from. That's where my reports are stored. Log in there, bring up any of the reports that I want. So there's the one, and this is an example. If I click on the pie chart up at the top, it will show me sort of the breakdown. And again, as you can tell, it's formatted for the phone, right? So you can see it's formatted differently than how we looked at in the browser, but makes it very phone friendly. And up at the top, we see this bell, and obviously I can't demo this to you, but you'll just have to take my word for it. We talked about that the card tile where we had 6 issues, right? If I were to click on that card tile within the report, I could click the bell up here at the top and say, hey, that's where I would go to say, hey, whenever it hits 10, please let me know, up there at the top. And then also, you can also export this. So the little, whatever, the icon you use to forward stuff, you can click on that and you can print it, mail it, whatever you like to send it out. And then also, remember we looked before on the Microsoft report that showed the PMs that hadn't updated their projects in however long. This is basically that. And again, it's maybe hard to tell, but you see I've highlighted John Klinger here in the middle. There's this bar across him. So I can slide that up and down and basically select different project managers, whoever I want. And of course, naturally, it's going to show up here he's got 5. And of course, as I roll up, if I look at Neil, for example, he's got 15 or something like that. So we could roll that up or down to look at the details for any of the others as well. And then this, again, the big one we saw just 5 minutes ago, where we had issues, risks, and those across the bottom. When I bring up that dashboard, it immediately switches to landscape. And then you can see there, again, this is just a print screen from the phone, and it's extremely legible in my opinion, and this is the exact same report that we just saw online. So here's your PMs, here's the ones that haven't been updated, here's the incomplete work in the past, all those things. And of course, I can click on the tabs at the bottom and go through issues, risks, etc. So the reporting is nice when it's, I guess, self-serve in my opinion. So, you know, if we put something out there and, you know, it's a whole lot easier to kind of sort of do it yourself. So here's the report, you know, when you want it, come get it sort of thing. Rather than, you know, we've got to export this to PDF and every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, I've got to email it to all my steering committee and so on and so forth. So what's nice about this is it allows you to create those in such a way that not only executives or whoever can go in and view them on their own, but they can also view them wherever they are. If I want to bring it up on my phone, if I want to bring it up on an iPad, tablet, Android, it's not just iPhone, it's Android as well, or Windows Phone. So anyway, so you can bring those up from anywhere, not just from your laptop. There, we've got about 10 minutes left. I wanted to show you the mobile things, which I print screened for you there, and we talked about. So let me ask, is there any, you know, I've not looked at the chat. Victoria, does anybody have any questions? Let me scroll through these first, but if you have any questions, please please type in the chat window and I'll go through this. Mute the phones, we did that. Oh, how frequently the data can be refreshed? Very good question. So if you go back, if we go here to, let me close that real quick, under our data sets, so there's a data set for each report. So here's my demo 2, here's my data set for demo 2. I can click the ellipses beside that, and I can click schedule refresh. And then over here, under schedule refresh, is where I can say how often I want to refresh the report. So I can choose daily, weekly, hourly, whatever time I want to set it up or whatever. And then you can also select this, where it will send failure notifications to you. So if the report was scheduled to refresh and it didn't, it will send you an email saying something's wrong. Also, you can, kind of while we're on it, if we look this, and there's a thing called Quick Insights, and this may take just a second to come up. I may answer one of the other questions, but I'm going to show you in a second what this Quick Insights is. It's actually kind of neat. I saw one of the questions was can you do Gantt reports with Power BI? You can. When we go to Power BI, we go here to our designer, go back to the report, visualizations. So you can see the ellipses here. You can import custom visuals. So you can go out to, I want to say it's app, Google it, but I think it's app.powerbi.com/visualizations or something like that. But there are multiple visualizations you can import. Gantt's one of them. So instead of double clicking on the pie chart or the bar chart, it would basically add the Gantt chart out here to your workspace. And so you can double click and add that to there as well. Let me jump back over here to what I was going to show you, and then I'll go through the rest of those questions. So I clicked on that Quick Insights. If I click this, it's kind of cool because it looks at all of the data that you've got in that data source and sort of identifies stuff that may be a little bit out of line. Like, for example, this person has a whole lot more project costs than everybody else. So something may be wrong. We might want to look at that. Green, the majority of our projects are in green status. Clearly that's not a problem, so we're going to let that slide. The majority of our projects, medium risk rating is a lot higher cost than others. Again, not a problem, but you can kind of get the idea. So it, like this one here, average cost. Well, we saw that one a second ago. The count of projects by that. So it sort of looks at all the different metrics that it can within your data set and just runs some analysis to let you say, you know, hey, this is out of line, I might need to call the PM, or, you know, why is Ray's projects off the chart as far as cost goes, what's he doing that the other guys aren't doing, and again, it does that for you. You just click on the ellipses and click Quick Insights. Let me go back to the questions here. We got to Victoria. Oh, need to distribute reports to others not connected, empower, we'll be discussing these solutions. Okay, so if you go back out here to where we ran the report in the browser. So let me close that again. Here's our report. We can save a copy of it, but as far as exporting it to PDF, I believe there is a I believe there's an add-in for Power BI that lets you export to PDF. Not 100% positive on that, but I believe you can. Well, you can definitely save a copy of it, and you can distribute that as well. So there's my export, and then I can go through and yeah, good question. But I believe there is an add-in where you can export that out to PDF. Let me look at our other questions we have. There's Victoria. How frequently can the data be refreshed? We look at that. Can you make a Gantt chart? We talked about that. Power BI work with other project implementations such as UMT 360. I believe, again, I'm not 100% familiar with what UMT 360 offers as far as a product offering, but I know they just ride on top of Project Online, same as QuickPMO does with Vibrant Fusion solutions. So as long as the data is there and the data is accessible via OData, then yes. But again, I don't know exactly how theirs is set up, if they've got some things that are in like a SharePoint list or how exactly, but it'll pull the data from whatever's in OData, it'll pull into Power BI. So again, depending on what data they've configured and how that's set up. And then another question, are the tables pulled from OData or only published data from Project Online? Yes. So you've got, if you're familiar with Project Server, and I assume that you are, you can, all the data that's published is basically what's in the projects table. So that would, so yes, all the published projects would be pulled down via OData, correct. And then, can users send feedback or audit the data? You know, I don't think there's any way for them to audit it. And as far as feedback goes, you know, I want to say there's something that you can feedback, but I think that's for Power BI as a whole. Yes, it's Power BI as a whole. But yeah, there's not a, I don't think there's a way that you can do that a user can basically give feedback on the report. I will tell you too though, and I didn't show it over here on the side, there is a, you can create groups. So for example, within Vibrant Fusion, we have when I publish it, there's a VF group. So you can publish it to a group, and then like we were talking about pinning the reports to a dashboard, you can essentially see every report that anybody in your group has stuck out there. So you can create groups within Power BI. So maybe your organization's Coca-Cola, and there's the development team, and there's infrastructure, and there's marketing and whatever. Well, marketing might want to have their own group for their projects, and development may want to have their own group. So you can sort of share them among themselves rather than throwing them out there to everybody. So you can do that. As far as the feedback, though, I don't believe that you can. Good question, though. Let me go back and see if we have any other questions. Chat, feedback, or today. I think that's it. If there's no other questions, let me see what else we've got in our deck here. Talked about that. So here we see the sort of information about us as far as, get the right slide, where we are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, Victoria, but I believe you or Aaron will be sending out a survey.
Yeah, thank you, Ray, actually. Thank you for presenting, and thank you, everyone, for joining us on this reporting webcast. Your local account executive, actually, will be reaching out with an email containing a link to the survey as well as a link to the webcast recording. So we would appreciate any responses you might have, as they really do help guide the content we provide in future webcasts. Please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook to learn more about this and other solutions that we have to drive your business. On our next In the Trenches webcast, we will be exploring the top 4 new features in Project Online, featuring resource engagement, multiple visual timelines, alerts and reminders, and out-of-the-box reports. That will be on Tuesday, July 19th at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, thank you for being a part in this webcast, and we hope to see you at the next event.